Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Young Dad Conversation. My name is Ricardo, and the premise of the show is that um, knowledge is empowering. So every week, I'm going to have a conversation with a young dad because I believe that hearing his story will make every one of us better. So joining us today is not so young dad Joe Salto. Joe, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here,
It's
Ricardo.
a pleasure to have you. Now,
Thank you.
I've known Joe for several years, and one of the reasons he's here, you should know this, is because my young dad had an emergency and he couldn't join us. But this is still going to be very, very interesting. Now, Joe,
Absolutely.
tell us a little bit about your history, yourself. Where are you from?
Well, I'm originally from Pelham Bay in the Bronx, and I've made an easterly migration throughout my life through places like Queens and western Suffolk, Long Island, bouncing around from Lindenhurst to Huntington and so on. But I call Deer Park my home now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So, um, let's see. You had your children when in your 30s.
Yes, I was 30.
Okay, all right. So you were already, a mature man. So what I want to know today is your relationship with your dad and how that story has influenced the way you make decisions now with your children.
Well, say my father was the type of guy. He was a very quiet, quiet kind of guy. He wasn't very emotionally open, uh, like you'd say today's man is. But he did spend time with us, and he did when we were growing up. He did make sure that there were certain things that he passed on to us and whatnot. He took us to work. He used to take us fishing. There was so many good things that I look back on, and I think that what it was about him was what he could do, he did.
Yeah.
And there were areas where you always look back and you say, I wish they were this, I wish they were that. But and looking back and understanding, the emotional toolkit that he was handed from his parents,
Right.
and so on. I
And
understand how that affected him, shaping me, and so on.
did you ever have a
Yeah.
conversation with him about him and his dad?
No, I haven't had that type of conversation with him, and it's only because we've drifted apart over the years. After I had gotten married, even
Okay.
we had come together, and then we fell back into our old ways. But that would be given where I am now, that would be a wonderful conversation to have. But when I was younger, and
Yeah.
after a messy divorce, and when
Okay.
when one doesn't come around, you say
Okay.
all you want to know is why you're not here. or
Right,
whatnot.
right.
That's
And so then, you talk about. It sounds. I mean, he. So you're saying that he was a quiet guy.
Yeah.
He worked a lot, but then when he did have time, he did spend it with you.
Yeah, it did spend it with
And
us.
and this resonates with me because you have told me
Uh-huh.
how much time you spend with your son in
Oh
particular.
yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I have a 9-year-old boy and I have a 15-year-old daughter, and the time that I used to spend with my daughter,
Right.
is now altered. So I have more time with my son,
Right.
and he's my best friend. I mean,
So
the
th-
two
so
of
so
us,
that's
we do
interesting. So
everything
you
together.
so everything that you sort of what your dad did with you, you started doing with your daughter until your daughter became a certain age, and then she became disinterested, and now you're
She's starting when she's becoming more interested in hanging out with her friends and hanging out and doing things with dad. So
Okay, right.
so now that while I've got my son in that pocket, and I'm in a position where I'm aware now, because I see that I have one who's growing up and becoming a young adult, and I see
Right,
that my
right.
window of opportunity is small. I'm trying to do the best that I can, because I know
So,
that's the most important
all right.
thing.
So the things that your dad did for
Yeah.
you that you liked, that you are now doing, or that you did with your daughter and now with
Mhm.
your son, what were some of those things?
Well, it's just all the timeshare.
Okay.
It's a lot of the things like walking on the beach, going to the
Your
beach and
your dad
spending the
your
time.
dad your dad walked on the
Yeah,
beach with
we used to
you,
do that.
and that's something that you enjoyed, and so
Oh, of
now
course.
you did that.
Yeah, all of these things. Wherever, Bear Mountain, going up into Harriman State Park, these things, they're very, these are high points.
So, in of the things that you
Yeah.
didn't like that he did, that you are
But
not
they-
doing,
But
or
but what I notice is that the things that he didn't do, I know I can fill those
Okay,
spots.
right,
You know, I
right.
know that. Well, he wasn't emotionally available. He was one of those, kids don't, boys don't cry, men don't cry,
All right.
and whatnot. He was one of 7 kids, and he had, a couple of older brothers, and they used to do everything went down to fighting over goat's eyes. So,
Yes.
you got three brothers and 2 eyes. There's gonna be some fights. So,
Here's
it was a
here's
little
the,
tougher.
I grew up without a dad, but I grew up with a very good mom. But still now when my boys cry over something, I do say there's no crying. For instance, they'll cry over I don't know, maybe losing at video game because they're 6 and 7,
Oh,
so
sure.
they play with it,
Yeah,
against
and
each
they're
other.
in each other, and
And then they cry, and
the
then they cry, and
competition
so I
is
say,
hard.
"Hey, man, there's no crying in video game playing."
Right.
Whatever. So how close
But
is that to what your dad did?
Very different.
Okay.
Because what you're doing is you're applying it to that particular situation
Oh,
by
okay.
saying there's no crying in video games. There's a difference when you say that that when you say men don't cry.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
is like
He
this
said
is
that.
that's like this is like a thing.
Right.
If things like that. It's when you're saying no, there's no crying in video games. It's kind of
Yeah.
saying like, listen, it's saying crying is an
Oh,
acceptable
right.
emotion. It's a God-given emotion. It's one of the things in our toolboxes. We've got it for a reason.
Right.
But there's a time to pull it out of the box,
Right,
and
right,
there's a
right.
time not
Let
to,
me
and
go
that's
back
what
to
you're doing.
let me go back to that one thing. So
That's more sophisticated. But
It's
that's the
evolved.
thing. I think it's
It's
evolved.
evolved.
We've all, it's like the caveman mentality of parenting. Is even that's coming along, which is why we're here. I don't know that the other generations were having conversations and
Right,
telling people that they needed to
the
do
one
these
thing
things.
that
Pay
you
attention.
definitely don't do, or and haven't done with both of your kids, or well, we'll start with that and then have another one.
I never physically hit them. I never spanked them or anything like that.
You never have?
I never have hit. I've grabbed them by the arm or whatnot, but
Yeah.
I've never.
arm grab.
I've never. And I remember. I mean, and I'm sure this had a lot to do with the fact that my mother used to rile my dad up when the two of them got home, and then I remember one night in particular when I had come home. I tapped on the glass. They were having a conversation in the kitchen. I don't know if it was good or bad, but it was towards the end. I come walking in. I come walking up the back door. I tap on the thing, and the glass breaks.
Oh.
Needless to say, I mean, did that cause So he came. He came at the door. He opened it, ripped open, and it's just, he was just so. It wasn't that big a guy, but he's your dad, so he's
always,
got that on
yeah,
you,
on you,
and
yeah.
it's an imposing thing physically, and
Right.
so not to say that he was overbearing, but it was a different type of parenting in the 70s.
So wait, so he did spank you?
Yeah, I
Okay.
remember it was my mother spanked me more than my dad, but I remember that my father one time he grabbed me by the neck and put me in the corner of the room because of that
Oh
little
boy.
story that I just told.
Yeah, he was upset.
He was upset. Yeah.
Before we go back to spanking,
Yeah.
which is very interesting. The other one is the one thing that you said you would never do that you hated that your dad did, but you still have done.
What would that be? I don't know.
No, not right off the bat.
I haven't
No?
I haven't given that a thought. I
Okay.
haven't, because I think that I always try and focus, I think, on the even if something's missing or something, I always try and focus on a good aspect of it, not say like, oh, this was I don't know.
Yeah.
I would think, I guess if anything, but I never really gave the reason for him to go to school, but
Okay.
like I know that I'm very present in my son's life and in jiu-jitsu and in
Right, right.
his scholastic stuff, making sure we always go to those these events.
Right.
But I don't remember. Maybe it was just that I didn't give him too many
So,
opportunities.
so let me let's go back to the spanking thing, right? Because I think this is a big thing, but it became a big thing for me. First of all, I don't. My father was not around for very long in my life, and when he was, I don't remember it because I was so young. So I don't remember him spanking me. My mother, I think, only did it once and I don't remember why I misbehaved so badly, and that's why she was so very, very upset. I don't remember what it was. So I didn't grow up being spanked. But with my children, I had a very short fuse early on, and I did. And initially, I justified it. Initially, I said, well, I mean, how else are they going to follow direction if I don't do this, right? I'm setting them straight. So initially, it made sense. And then later, as time passed, I started saying to myself, I can't do this again. I can't do this again.
Yeah, because it's not you.
I hated
Right,
doing
you hate
it. I
being
hated
there,
doing
the
right.
bad cop or whatever.
So it wasn't until very long ago that I said to each one of them, all right, listen, I'm not going to spank you anymore. Okay, but then it's on you.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
I didn't know how else to do it, so I said I'm never gonna do it again because I hate myself after I do it.
Right.
Right. But it's on you. All right. So that means that you are now responsible because I'm not going all the way
Right.
on
Yeah.
in this discipline thing. So that's been crazy.
Yeah.
That's been a crazy
Have you
change.
found
But I'm
a,
really happy. Yeah, no, man.
Yeah.
I don't do it. I don't do it. I'm super thrilled about it.
Yeah. You know,
I'm psyched.
yeah. I mean, there's discipline is discipline, but there's you know, and there's a time for it and everything else. But there's a way to go about it. I mean, I was of the generation where the wooden spoons. I don't know how many wooden spoons broke over the the shoulders. You know.
So all right. So then do you ever compare yourself with your dad? Do you ever say, well, my dad, he did things this way. I do him better. Is there ever a better?
No, I don't think in terms of competing with my dad, or the memory of my dad as a father.
Okay.
I don't do it from that standpoint because I know that all we can be is the best we can be, and if I'm being present and if I'm being active and I'm being aware, that's all I can do. And it's not like I'm one up on you, Dad, or anything like that.
Right.
I'd love for him to know, for him to know his grandchildren and for him to have a relationship with them. But there's just been so many, we would just weave in and out like this that it's just.
I have a thing.
Shoot.
I can't, because my father wasn't around. Oh, I mean, there's a lot of things, right? But the one thing about my dad and I, is that I think, because I'm present, I'm there with my children, right? I think to myself, how could he have walked away from something so amazingly beautiful? That's what I think about all the time.
That's the one area that you got me. That's where you got, because that is as a child who experienced that, when you have a father who is with you all your life,
right?
And then all of a sudden, because him and his wife don't get along, and he's moved on to another situation that has pre-existing kids and everything else, what happens is that you wonder. You see, you say to yourself, you're like, okay, so what happened? Was she that crazy that you couldn't come drive by and just roll the window down and tell me, hop in?
All right, Joe.
I don't know what it was.
Well, we've run out of time.
Okay.
But it's definitely been a lot of fun.
Yes,
I've really enjoyed it. Our conversation.
I wish we had more time.
I thank you very much for joining me.
Not a problem.
I know it's tough to get uptown, and I hope to see you again. I will definitely invite you one more time.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
If
you are 16 to 24 years of age and you would like to have a conversation with me, I would love to have you over. Please send me an email. All right, and so we've come to the end of this segment. Please be on the lookout for the next one. Thank you.